flexing, rolling through the SWAT. Repping for the city, hear him in the parking lot. Houston written across the jersey, ain't gon' never stop. Just fans got me tuning in, waiting for the drop. Astros, Texas, Rockets, Dynamo, they coming with it. When they pull up, got the city sitting on a fitted. Straight up A-Leaf, hold it down, ain't gon' never quit it. Just fans got me tuning in, let my dogs get it. Southwest A-Leaf, Texas, throw down here and it's so infectious. We ride for the Houston Astros, Rockets, Dynamo, and them Texans.
How's it going, everybody? Thank you for joining us today. I'm Carlos, one of the hosts of the Just Fans podcast, and I'm joined here by my co-host, Rios. How's it going, Rios?
Let me start off by saying fuck the Titans. I'm going to say that throughout the episode.
All right.
And shit during the offseason, they get all the smoke today.
Ouch. All right. And then we got the one and only trash talker himself. You might know him off of Twitter. He gets in it with Jags fans all the time. We got the one and only Brown Chubby Bear himself, VT, in the house. How's it going, V?
What's going on, guys? I'm doing well. Can't wait till Saturday, bro.
Yeah, it's gonna be intense for sure. All right, man. So the Chargers are coming in hot. You know, they got Jim Harbaugh this season. I mean, as their head coach this season, and I know in one of our shows when we came in, we're like, you know what, Jim Harbaugh is gonna change the Chargers culture around, and now look at them now, they're in the playoffs. So how do you guys feel? And I'll start off with UV, and then I'm gonna head over to Rios. How confident are you with the Texans putting up an actual game against the San Diego. Wow, I'm old school now. Against the LA Chargers. Go ahead, V. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll just preface this for the fans that you have that don't know. I'm a Michigan fan. Oh, Brandon, how's it going, Brandon?
Brandon.
So I'm a Michigan fan. Go Blue. So I know Harbaugh. Nico knows Harbaugh. And so it's great to see what he has done. In the NFL. Obviously, it's not his first rodeo.
Right.
And so. I'm just going to say I am confident, even knowing how good of a coach he is. I'm sure we'll talk about more why, but I do feel like this franchise, particularly these group of guys, put something together against the Titans. And yes, I know it was only for a little bit with CJ out there for 6 plays, but they put a lot together. The backups put a lot together against the Titans starters as well. So, depth is also good. So I know we'll talk it more, but I'm going to say overall, I'm pretty confident that we're at least going to put up a fight, and I'll tell you what I'm projecting later on.
All right, there you go. And Rios, what is your take on this one, bud?
So I think the Chargers defense, they're ranked number 11 in the league. They've made plays on that side of the ball, but you got to look at who they played. They've played the 4th easiest schedule in the NFL, and they've, feasted on inferior opponents. They've only beaten one team with a winning record this year, and I think people are really sleeping on this Texans team, and I think they're going to show out on Saturday.
All right. Honestly, I think the Texans defense is elite, has been elite. Like, there's been players that have been missing, and they still are able to put up a fight. I think if the Texans are really going to keep, I think the Texans are going to keep this game close. The Texans defense in particular, I think, is obviously going to fall into how the offense is going to operate against that LA Charger defense, right? In particular, I'm curious to see what plans Bobby Slowick and D'Amico have against the Chargers defense, if they've come up with something new. Because you've seen, like, did anybody see the hype video that the Texans sent out?
I saw it in my email.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, that hype video got you bumped, didn't it?
Oh yeah,
and it shows confidence. It shows that they're ready to go against the Chargers. One play in particular that I want to see what the Texans do with is Derwin James. Derwin James is like all over the place. He's one of those guys that is able to take the deep ball away, and I know that right now the Texans, their main target is Nico Collins, and after that, you're kind of like, okay, where do I go? What do you have with Dalton Schultz? Dalton Schultz this season hasn't been as productive as as last season, and so we'll get into that. So, where do you think of Derwin James there? Let's go with Rios this time.
Oh, he's a perennial Pro Bowler year after year. He's, former All-Pro. He's, one of those guys you have to account for whenever you create an offensive game plan, because he can wreck your game plans. You have to know where he's lined up at all times.
All right. How do the Texans handle Derwin James there, V?
So I don't think it should be just up to Patterson. Something I've been stressing for a while is that I think CJ has to be able to point out and see if he's creeping up. Where are they playing him? Is he really going to be a safety or a linebacker on that particular series or whatever? One other thing to remember, one of the complexities that not a lot of people really understand this about the Chargers is that Harbaugh does not use a mic in the traditional sense. He actually changes who is going to be calling it out depending on the series. So, when we have Aziz out there, he's usually Mike for probably 95% of the snaps that he's out there. And, they might put in Christian Harris every once in a while in a package or something like that, or someone else out there when Aziz has some time off or whatever. But what Harbaugh does is that he swaps it around all the time. You never know what's happening. And so they have to keep an open eye on where's Derwin James going? How is he playing? Is he coming up as a linebacker, especially when he's creeping up? And then Stroud has to have the ability, and I'm sure they have talked about this, to make sure that he can audible and make sure that he gets the ball out quickly. One of the things that we've seen both in the Titans game just last week and as well as the Dallas game is that those were the only two times that CJ Stroud has been getting the ball out very, very quickly. And if you look in the Dallas game, he got that ball out in about 2.2 to 2.3 seconds, which is insane for him. He usually gets the ball out after 3 seconds. He's a guy that holds on to the ball post 3 seconds. And both in the Titans game and in the Dallas game, the games where he's looked, in my opinion, the best outside of Kansas City without those turnovers, he's gotten the ball out quick. That has to be the goal. We all know if you get the ball out before 2.5 seconds, the chances that you are going to get sacked or even hit dramatically decreases. So in this game, he has to get the ball out in under 2.5 seconds.
Yeah, I think CJ definitely needs to get the ball out quicker. Get your checkdowns. I hate it because we can't. Every time we talk about checkdowns, I keep thinking of the Davis Mills times when checkdown play. But in this situation, it needs to happen. You can't hold on to the ball too much. You can't just try to go for the deep throw or the hero ball all the time. You gotta get your open receivers going. So I agree with you 100%. Take the checkdowns and live to see another day, because if you can't establish the run, you got to go with your checkdowns as well. And that's what I'm kind of worried about too. I want to see how they do with Joe Mixon too, because Joe Mixon has been amazing, but then if you look at it, the last few games, it's been kind of like he's reduced to just a few yards. So, and I think Rios, you mentioned one of the reasons why they started going that route. Is that correct?
Yeah. So they basically had to put in their best pass blockers, in which affected the running game, because all the guys out there, they're not really, plus run blockers. But, the trade-off is your franchise quarterback stays upright and takes less hits. Because at the beginning of the season, man, the whole line just collapsed outside of Tunsil, and he was just running for his life in 4 different directions.
So, V, I want to get your take on this. So obviously the Texans have made shifts in the O line here, and it looks like based on the injury release that the same offensive line that went out against the Titans is going to be what you're going to see against the Chargers this weekend. So why did it take the Texans, I guess, this long to really start making adjustments in the O line? Because it felt like it was the same guys just about all the time, and then that's what kind of started this whole thing. What do you make of this thing?
Well, I can give you my assessment of what I think. And what I think is that the reason that they kept Kenyon Green and Juice Scruggs in their positions, Juice Scruggs at center and Kenyon Green at left guard, was not because D'Amico or even Bobby Sloak is like, I love how they're playing, we got to keep him in there. From everything that I've heard, it was a call by Nick Caserio. That's what I've heard. So that's one of the frustrations that I've had, because listen, if you're an offensive coordinator, there's no way you looked at Kenyon Green and like, that's so awesome, I can't wait to keep him out there week after week after week. There's no way that Bobby Sloak was out there. It's like, man, can't wait for next week with Kenyon Green. No, from what I've heard, he was essentially had to, and so he had to. And it wasn't until CJ decided to take him out that they actually changed it up. And the other thing is, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. And the other thing is, when that happened, they also realized that Juice Scruggs was actually getting complaints from inside the building. They just didn't necessarily show that out. So, for example, you heard Tunsil saying it's not just me when we're talking about the false starts and all that stuff. And people were saying, well, he's trying to throw other people under the bus. He did end up throwing them under the bus. But think about how frustrating it was to know that Drew Scruggs wasn't communicating properly. People were tapping him. If you look at the All-22, people were tapping him milliseconds before the ball was actually snapped. And no one knew what was going on. It looked like total confusion. A center has to be a proper communicator, and Drew Scruggs was not. So having Drew Scruggs at center and having Kenny Green at left guard completely screwed up the line. The line was always not going to be great because of the makeup, but having those two guys on it for as long as we did was huge malpractice. And unfortunately, I cannot blame D'Amico or Bobby for that. But what it is, as far as I'm concerned, that's the past. As D'Amico said, it's a new season. This is when the new season starts. And what we saw against the Titans was pretty damn good protection against really good defensive line and the front seven, frankly. Let's not kid ourselves. As much fun as we want to make fun of the Titans, and I do constantly, their front seven is strong. In fact, they have the best defense when it comes to yards allowed in the league. Right? So their defense has been strong. And so I will say that, listen, I'm happy with this line, with the way it is. Off season, I'm gonna say something different. But now, as we're going into the playoffs, I'm satisfied. I think they can make something happen.
All right. I want to. Well, you mentioned a fresh start. I want to read you what D'Amico Ryans, to back you up on that one. What D'Amico Ryans said during his press conference. He said, "Yeah, we're here now. Let's go play. For me, nothing else matters. It's how you're playing right now. Are you playing the best ball going into the playoffs? That means that most. And are you able to consistently keep up with what you are in the playoffs? Can you continue to play good ball? Can you continue to play the game the right way and not make silly mistakes? Can you put yourself in favorable positions? Can we get better at scoring in the red zone, defending in the red zone? Those situational elements of the game, third down, red area, those are the areas that we have to be really good at in the playoffs, because good teams aren't going to make mistakes. We have to find a way to beat them." I mean, that sounds something that everybody has been talking about. The Texans red zone has to improve. Also, on the defensive side of the ball, defending in the red zone as well. That has been a consistent problem. So yes, they are aware of it. As you can see, it's just like, how is this executed? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Was that for me or for Rio?
Oh, anybody that want to jump in on that one? That was not a specific one. Yeah.
Well, I'll just say something real quick, which is that all right, as far as being better in the red zone, the best way of being better in the red zone is to run the ball better in the red zone. I mean, that's the obvious answer, right? Yeah. Something we haven't done. So I'm sure people are seeing Joe Mixon out there and seeing those 100-yard games and thinking, we have a great run game. The reality is we have the fourth highest stuff rate in the league. So while he's been explosive, he has been able to have something like 3.2 yards after contact, one of the highest yards after contact in the league. He's had to do that by himself many, many times. Now, there have been plays where you've seen even Titus Howard get involved in the run game, like you saw against the Titans. You had Tunsil and Titus make a good block on a run play. So this makeup actually seems like they could run the ball better, and that is important. That's how you help out in the red zone, just in terms of scoring.
Rios.
No, I agree with you. You have to get the run game going in the red zone. I think they've tried it. We saw it when they were playing against the Ravens. They tried to run the ball in the red zone. It didn't work out just because it was just bad execution. Like, it was the right play call. It was just really bad execution, bad blocking, and they got stuffed, and they turned it over on downs, and then that was the last chance they had to score points. And I think against this Chargers defense, like I mentioned, they play as a lot of bad teams. They put up good numbers, but they still have a pretty stout front seven, and they're going to have to get a little bit creative in the run game. It can't all be on Joe Mixon, because teams have figured out if you basically take away the sidelines and try to force them up the middle, it's no gain or loss of yards.
I want to put this question up here that that Brandon brought up, and it says, "Is Kenyon a better right guard than a left guard?" Rios, what do you think? Sorry.
I think he looks better on the sidelines.
All right, V, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, honestly, as far as whether he should even be on the line is a question. Now, obviously, he's a first round pick, right? 15th overall. So, the organization has every intent to try to put him out there until he's failed. I think he's failed. I don't think he deserves another shot as a starter. Keep him there as a bench, third string. Final, that works for me. But as far as starting, he can't. I know some people think he was a plus in the run game, and he did make big blocks in the run game, but he was never consistent. There's a ton of all 22 that I could show you of how many times he just was on his ass. During the Patriots games, if you think that that was a great offense, right, against the Patriots, Kenyon Green was on his ass a ton during when we're trying to run the ball. I don't think Kenyon Green honestly deserves to be in the NFL, but if he's going to be in the NFL, he's third string. He cannot start.
Yeah, I think as far as like a starting NFL caliber guard, no. Because you have to be able to pass block. This is a passing league. If you can't pass block, you're not going to be on the field. I don't care how great of a run blocker he is. He's a minus as far as, pass coverage. And this is the passing league. You got to be able to keep the franchise quarterback upright. If you can't do that, you shouldn't see the field. And I think this is probably the last we see of him in the Texans uniform.
Yeah, I think there was a lot from when I spoke to people, I feel like they were really they had some high expectations of Kenyon this season, and I think I heard somewhere also the Kenyon Revenge Tour, being thrown out as well, and it did not go as planned, honestly. I gotta admit, I had some high hopes as well, but it just didn't seem to happen. And like you, Rios, I don't think I see him in a Texans uniform next season either. I think this is it for him with the Texans. If I'm a betting man, which I'm not, but I honestly don't see him also here with the Texans. Now I want to move on to something else, right? Oh, and B, I'm sorry. Did you want to chime in on something else regarding Kenyon, or are you?
I mean, I think you guys got it down. The only thing I would add is I can still see him as a depth piece.
Okay.
That I do think that he could make, because we drafted him and he realizes that he has no value around the league right now. So he may choose to stay here, and we may just have him on a depth piece. And you never know. He could continue to grow throughout the years. Even if he doesn't make the team, he could stay on the practice squad. So there's a chance he could grow eventually, but he's nowhere near where we need him to be when we're trying to go and make a run.
So this actually brings me to my next. That's what I was gonna transition to over here. He says Slowick tried to supplement the run with quick screens, and Stroud just couldn't throw them correctly. We don't have good boundary blockers. Now I was gonna transition over to like, what have you? There's obviously a lot of mixed reaction with Bobby Slowick, and then I saw a lot more of it come out once it came out that the Jets were trying to talk to him. I wanted to get your thoughts. First, V, on what are your thoughts on the difference with Bobby Slowick this season as opposed to last season, where it felt like it was a little bit more successful? What do you think on Bobby this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the blame that people are putting on Bobby is misplaced.
Okay.
If you look at what has been going on, in fact, I mean, not to just promote the channel, but there are two videos that anyone who's questioning Bobby's play calling needs to watch. And one of them is called Four Screens, Four Fails, What Happened? We talk about that. The other thing is we talk about what playoff fixes the Texans need to do in order to win a playoff game. And these are all 22 reviews. And what you see there, and like, for example, I'm going to talk about the screens as XDR, that's Bab over there that was talking about. When you look at the screens, people will say, oh, why is Bobby calling screens? Well, the reality is that those were RPOs. So Leah has talked about this a lot on our channel. And out of the four screens, three of them were RPOs. So Bobby Slowick has given Stroud a little more ability to make those reads, and he makes the right reads sometimes, but there's sometimes where he didn't. So he chose to pass when he should have actually just handed the ball off. There's another time where he throws, and this is against Kansas City, where he throws to Nico Collins and he throws the ball way too high, like Nico Collins is 10 feet tall. I mean, that's not a bad play call. That's just pure execution. Then you have another time where he throws to Nico again, and Xavier Hutchinson just doesn't complete the block. That is not a play call. That's poor execution on Xavier Hutchinson. Then there's another one where It's a throw on the other side, and Tunsil is he's pulling Tunsil, and he's supposed to make the block, but Tunsil takes a bad angle and basically doesn't get there in time. And so in all these situations, either the ball isn't caught or it's caught immediately at the point of the catch point, right? Like so Nico's tackled as soon as Nico catches it, and so there's not much you can do there. So those aren't play call issues. Then you can talk about overall just Bobby Slowick. You can see how many times, whether it's Robert Woods, Dalton Schultz, even Mechie has been open. And this is a problem with Stroud this season, all right? Last season, one of the reasons why Stroud was able to be successful is he didn't see as many split safety coverages. So, and when he did, he rocked. He was tied for second best in the league in terms of completion rate on deep passes when he had split safety coverages. This year, he leads the league in interceptions on split safety coverages. And the reason is you can look at it. When you look at the all-22, you see him going through reads. Read 1, 2, 3, 4. He's going back to 1. He's not confident in his decision-making ability. So he holds the ball way too long. And then when he finally makes a read, he's not giving enough time for his playmakers to get any yak. And sometimes because he takes too long to make his read, he's getting sacked. So even though the O-line is bad, he's actually making the O-line look even worse. Now, I don't want to make it sound like I'm hating on C.J. Stroud, but the film is a film. And the film shows that he has regressed. Now, I mentioned the Titans game and the Dallas game. If he can get the ball out quick and he's not having to look at 4 reads, so maybe you cut it down to 3 or even 2 half read, make it a half read, you're going to have him be more successful. Right, and I think that's what they're going to try to do against the Chargers because that's what they did against the Titans.
I agree with you 100% on the fact that I think he needs. I think I mentioned it previously. Right now, he needs to release the ball quick. He needs to make sure he looks at his options, and trust, the other options besides Nico, And yes, I know. In hindsight, it's like, well, what can you trust? How much is how much can John Mechie do? How much can Xavier Hutchinson do as well? And I agree. I think it's honestly, to me, I always thought it was like a chain effect. It just kind of goes around poor execution, but also some play calling. It's just I feel like it's all around, and when one part does well, another part just kind of crumbles, and then when that part does well, another part that was good crumbles. It's almost like, how are we going to mess this up today? How is this going to be messed up today? And so that's how I see it. But yeah, I agree with you. It's like execution, but then sometimes it's like play calling and things like that. That's just how I've been seeing it. What about you? What do you think?
When it comes to the play calling, I see it this way: right play call, wrong time. It's kind of like, like in conversation, you could say the right thing, but you say it at the wrong time, and it just fucks the whole thing up. And with some of the play calls Bobby has, like, it's the right play call, just the wrong time to run it. And when there's poor execution and then bad decision making by your quarterback, it's just a recipe for a shitty offense. We've seen that all year. I mean, just the tape doesn't lie.
So Brandon said last year we got stopped whenever we faced teams that stopped the run as a bottom 5 rushing team. Hopefully one year it'll finally change, but it won't if we use the same 5 O-linemen year after year.
Yeah, I think like the scheme that they try to run, they don't have the offensive lineman to run that kind of scheme. They're trying to run the 49ers offense, but you don't have the 49ers caliber of offensive line.
So I will say this is when some of my tweets where people get angry, and I say this is where I actually put some of the blame more on Caserio than Slowick because D'Amico selected Slowick, right? And he hired D'Amico, so he knows what scheme they were trying to implement. And yet you extended Titus Howard, who has never shown being a good run blocker, right? And then you draft Kenyon Green, who's a bust. And, you got to forgive some stuff, right? So you can forgive the Kenyon Green pick because, you're going to draft bust. Not every you're not going to get every single pick. But then you extended Titus Howard, and then you restructured him, meaning that he's on the books even longer. And then on top of that, he actually extended Shaq Mason before he played a single snap for the Houston Texans, who did pretty well last year, but obviously fell off the earth this season. So those are two mistakes, right? Extending Tytus Howard, Shaq Mason, and then, like I said, drafting Kenyon Green. And you could even say even Juice Scruggs because he hasn't been the center that we thought he was going to be. So if you take a look at that, you really have four linemen. Then what are you supposed to do as a play caller when those are your choices? You can't just change the scheme week one and say, oh shit, none of these guys can do what I want. Let's change the scheme around. You got to still run your scheme. And so you're forced to run a scheme with the guys that you don't want that have been extended and drafted. Full well, your GM knows that that's the scheme you're going to play. Now, I'm not even hating on Caserio, but you can't put all the blame on someone like Slowick when he is not in control of everything. He's not in control of who you draft and who gets extended and who's even out there. That's not his. He just doesn't have that control.
So XDR8 says Bobby calls so many plays that you have the people running wide open plus blocked, and well, CJ just doesn't see them.
Yeah, he missed some open guys, and I go back to that shoulder injury. Sideline Sarah, she posted a video a couple weeks ago where you saw CJ's shoulder. It looked similar to Trevor Lawrence's shoulder before he got knocked out for the season. Like that clavicle doesn't look right, and you can see it poking through his shirt. Like I wonder how long he's had that injury, and how it's really affected not just his decision making, but some of the throws that he's made. Because you see that when he throws the ball, it doesn't have the same zip as a year ago.
Yeah, it doesn't. He used to throw a beautiful ball. Like last season, you would just like watch it, and then it would be caught. Like it was like precise. It was very precise. And this season, I've seen the difference where it's kind of wobbly at times. It's kind of overthrown, underthrown. It's been surprising to say the least. I've seen the regression this year too, and it was kind of hard to admit, to be honest with you. But then as time goes on, it's like, well, how much of it is it the O-line? How much is it on the Slowick calls? Don't get me wrong, I'm not hating on CJ either, just like V. It's just speaking facts. Like how much of it can you hold CJ accountable to?
It's all the above. It's a mixture of things that have all led to this offense performing the way they have, but Saturday's a whole new season and they can break the ship. We've seen it multiple times and throughout our lives in the playoffs. Guys will have, mediocre seasons, and in the playoffs they, just turn it up to 11 and just go on a run. And hey, never know. All I'll say is this: 2007 Eli Manning, mediocre season throughout the regular season. That postseason, he just turned into Peyton Manning.
Yeah. So you want Slowick to call better plays with aggressive quarterback, no run blocking, and one receiver. LOL. No, I mean I'm just saying that it's it's all around. It's not just one person. It's commutative. Yeah, it's not just one person. I think then Brandon posted 49ers dropped 30 plus with Charlie Heck as their left tackle, and we cut him though. That's what I said.
By the way, we cut Charlie Heck not because he was bad, but because he was recovering from an injury, and we wanted to bring in more talent. But so it wasn't because we thought he was bad. But anyway, just getting back on whether or not we need to do different play calls and stuff. Bottom line is that if we just create make it easy for CJ, right? We do know that he is banged up. He has admitted he's banged up. D'Amico confirmed it. And we also know that the O-line isn't necessarily where we want it to be. The solution here is the dink and dunk. And I know a lot of people poo-poo that. But if you look at what Mahomes is doing, that's what Mahomes is doing.
Yeah. It's all screens, dink and dunks, check downs. Like he is not, throwing 50-yard bombs every game like he was, a few years ago. It's just
you can't. It's not because Mahomes doesn't know how to do that. It's because he's doing it because what the defense is giving him. When the defense is showing that much split safety, that much cover two, and you're constantly trying to push the ball downfield, you're going to get picked off, and that's why CJ Stroud has so many picks, right? Well, that's one of the reasons anyway. But when you dink and dunk, you move the ball. It's an extension of the run game at that point. When you dink and dunk and you're throwing for 3 yards and 5 yards, you're essentially saying, all right, we can't run the ball as effectively, so we're just going to have these short passes that use as an extension of the run game, keep the chains moving, not getting negative yardage on first and second down, and put yourself in a good position on third down. That's a thing I think that they need to do, is just focus on, in all reality, making CJ Stroud a game manager. Now, why do you do that? Because once you do that, and then say, shit, we can't use cover two anymore because he's just going to dink and dunk us. Now they're going to use cover one. Now you kill them. on cover one. Now you can throw those deep shots in cover one. And CJ Stroud still kicks ass on cover one. So that's my opinion of how you do this. You don't have to make it complicated. You literally just have, I want to say call it like Mahomes, but we're not talking about trick plays. We're not talking about something insane, nothing that needs rocket science. It's simple. Dink and dunk, and then when they choose to say, all right, we're going to come after you with cover one, kill them. That's it.
Yeah, you're basically bait and switch. Show, we're just going to dink and dunk all day, and then once they get away from that cover two, take a deep shot. We've seen it multiple times throughout, Stroud's career. You give him that chance, he's going to take that deep shot, and he's more times than not going to hit it. He just hasn't had the chance to do it this season. But again, you got to show that, you know what, we're going to, you take away the deep shot, fine. We're going to dink and dunk you to death. Mahomes has done it all season. We can do it too.
All right, let's talk. Before I want to move on to the defense after this, but I want to say I did mention earlier that Slowick had been in contact with the Jets or whatnot. What do you, if let's say hypothetically, if Slowick does go over to the Jets or whatever, I'm just saying hypothetically, is there anybody in mind that you have in mind that could replace Slowick that would function in this type of offense that they have going on, or would they just change the whole outcome? What do you guys think? Rios, what do you think, bud?
I think they probably they seem to like continuity, so I think they probably promote Jared Johnson to the OC because he's familiar with the schemes, familiar with CJ. To keep that continuity going, they probably just promote within instead of going to the outside or just changing up the whole playbook because you got to revamp the entire office at that point.
V, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say I think it's the exact opposite. If you want to change the scheme, you can't hire Gerard Johnson because he's going to implement the exact same scheme, so nothing will change. And the other thing is, Gerard Johnson, in my opinion, has been an abject failure. His job is to develop CJ Stroud, and CJ has regressed to the point where he was, potentially a top 5 quarterback, and now he's literally a bottom. He's ranked the 30th out of 32 quarterbacks in the league right now, 20th if 28th in some rankings. So he was literally ranked in top 5 in some, and then 28th now in others. That's an abject failure of the QB coach. Now you've seen CJ Stroud have mechanic issues as well. I don't think if they promote Gerard Johnson, that's absolute malpractice. I think that if Slowick does go to the Jets, I think they have to go outside. And if they're going to go outside, at that point, I don't think they would keep the same scheme. I think they'd revamp it and get a completely different scheme, whether that's spread or something like that. But I don't think that they keep Gerard Johnson. If they keep Gerard Johnson, then literally what are you changing? If they're not happy with what they have with Slowick, then Gerard Johnson is just more of the same with a different person. So I wouldn't not be happy if they put Gerard Johnson in that role.
Yeah, no, I didn't say that's what I want. I just said that's what I see happening, unfortunately, just because they seem to like continuity. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. But I agree with me. I hope that doesn't happen. But from what I've seen with this team, yeah, that's what I expect, honestly.
So we have a comment saying we played all the best teams in the league this year. Only completely outmatched game was the Ravens, and they're the most physical team in the league. Chargers are similar. I will say this, though. At the beginning of the season, on our other show, we had posted a tweet, and I always keep going back to it because the tweet talked about how the Texans were going to face they had one of the most complicated schedules because they were facing a lot of the teams that had gone over, that were over 500 and that had made obviously the playoffs. So overall, and when you look at it in that perspective, how do you think the Texans actually, did that? Because I'm bringing up that point. Where yes, there were some teams that they kind of kept it close with. They kept it close with a lot of teams, but overall, the games that I can think on the back of my head that were just a complete disaster was the Ravens game and then the Minnesota game at the beginning of the season. So overall, if you're looking at it from that perspective, how do you think the Texans have actually performed in the big picture? I'm going to go with V this time because I think I asked Rios the last one.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Texans obviously played a first place schedule, and played some of the hardest teams in the league. We beat the Bills and treated Josh Allen we made him look really bad. Probably the worst game he's had in his career outside of him as a freshman. So a rookie. So I think we have played big teams and we have played them well. Now, if you look at the Chargers, the only playoff team that they beat is the Broncos, and they had the Bucks put 40 on them. So let's not think the Chargers are some great team that we can't beat here. Now, after the Chargers, we'll talk about that later on, right? Like if we beat the Chargers. But as far as going up the Chargers, we're pretty well matched. And frankly, we're pretty well matched in so many categories. Yes, they're the number one scoring defense, but our defense is elite in so many other ways. And in all reality, they are using Herbert like a game manager. They are running the ball more than we run the ball, right? We are more explosive in the run game, but they're more consistent running the ball. They have a better line, obviously, so they can run the ball more. They're using Herbert like a game manager. Now, that doesn't mean that there are not times where Herbert just isn't just elite, because you saw him even against the Raiders, right? That he can make those plays, and we saw CJ can do that. The play to Tank where he was going to get sacked and CJ was almost on his knees and threw just an incredible ball to Tank Dell, obviously before he got hurt. Amazing play. It's not like CJ can do the same thing there, but you don't have to do it over and over and over again. I think one of the things that CJ has been trying to do is play that hero ball too much. And I think that if you rein him in a little bit and say, listen, we can win this game if we just move the ball. We don't have to go nuts. We can win this game. You run the ball a little better than you have been with this particular line, and you utilize play action. You do that, we can win. And just remember, against Justin Herbert, I put this tweet out today early before the show. Justin Herbert has not looked good under pressure. Right?
No,
let's remember that when he's been pressured, his passer rating drops down to under 78.
78. Mm-hmm.
He has only thrown 3 interceptions. That's what's making him elite right now, right? Only 3 interceptions. That to me is the biggest difference in this matchup, is whether or not we're going to turn the ball over. If we don't turn the ball over, I think we win this game. But if we turn the ball over even once, I think that's how little the margin of victory is going to be in this game. If we turn the ball over, we lose. But if we just protect the ball, we're winning this game.
Rios, what do you think? Your overall aspect of how successful the Texans have been. But really quick, I did find the tweet and we posted, the Houston Texans have a challenging schedule in 2024. 7 games will be against teams who went to the playoffs in 2023. Not to mention the Texans will play 11 teams that went over 500. And the question we posed was, how successful will the Texans be in 2024? Now that we're here, do you think, what do you think? What do you make of that, Rios?
I think outside of the Ravens game where they got their cheeks clapped, let's be honest, on national TV, ruined my Christmas. They had an opportunity to win all those games that they lost as far as the good teams. The Packers, they should have won that game. The Lions, you got 5 interceptions on Jared Goff.
Against Jared Goff.
How the fuck do you not win? But we snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. They found a way to lose that game, and that's a game they should have won. What was another close one? They lost a lot of one-score games, but they easily could have won against good teams. So, that's a positive sign as far as, progression. People say, oh, they couldn't beat good teams. They were neck and neck. They just found ways to lose. And I think now they have a chance to show that, you know what, we can beat good teams. We put Josh Allen in the blender. Like he looked completely lost against this defense in week 5 or 6, whenever we played them. Like, he had 9 completions. An NFL quarterback had 9 completions. The dude is going to be the MVP most likely. 9 completions, a couple turnovers. They got a chance to, flip the script and show, hey, we can beat the elite teams and the elite quarterbacks of this league. And Saturday is a perfect chance to showcase that.
And, against the Lions, I know, honestly, that was a winnable game. Again, you made a point there, Rios. Jared Goff, 5 interceptions. Like, they were able to handle the Lions offense for the first half, and then they just completely missed it during the second half. They fell apart, and I think that's when they were having like the second half issues that they couldn't really score anything in the second half. And then, I mean, CJ Stroud, as they were interviewing Campbell, he throws an interception. We'll pick up the ball and then throws a costly pick. And I think that game, if for Texas fans, that game hurt because I think like they were getting that potential. They were going over against a team that's a Super Bowl caliber team. Where's the lie there? It's a Super Bowl caliber team, and then you were able to play that well against them, but then you couldn't finish it. That's the thing. You couldn't finish, and it basically you only played one half of the game. After that, it was like it was Lions game all over.
Yeah, same thing with the Chiefs. Like they had a chance to win the Chiefs game. I think when Tank Dell went down like that, I think that sucked the air out of the team, and they just they looked shell shocked at that point. Mm-hmm. But that was a winnable game. If he doesn't get hurt, I think they beat the Chiefs that day. But
I agree with you on that. I will say again, not to pile on CJ, but the biggest difference, whether it's even in the Lions game, in the Chiefs game, it's the turnovers, man. One of the reasons why we did so well last year is that CJ did not turn the ball over last year. Now, of course, some of those turnover-worthy plays that didn't end up as an interception, just good luck, Hey, he's got the Lord on his side, thank God. But this year, I mean, having those 12 picks, I mean, those picks hurt us because they're just in bad situations. If you think about it, like the Lions game or even the Cowboys game, where people are saying, I hate to keep defending Bobby here, but hey, do a tendency breaker. Why you keep running on first downs? Those plays that he's called, those are first down tendency breakers. That's a play action first down call. And those are the plays that he killed last year. Everyone remembers the game that we called a playoff game against the Colts last year. We came out there. It was a first down play action call to Nico Collins, 75-yard run. Tried replicating that other times this year, and CJ just got picked off multiple times this year, right, on those first down calls. So what do? You got to protect your quarterback. You got to run the ball because otherwise your quarterback either is going to get hit because of a bad O-line or he's going to throw a pick. So, and I think what you got to do now, though, is you got to utilize those short passes. Got to use those short passes. And I know that CJ has had trouble with the quick game. Bab is saying it in the comments, and this is true. If you look at the KC game, if you look at the All-22 on the KC game, you'll see how many times that he's inaccurate. Now, I will say it's a whole new season. No, we can't hold that against anyone anymore. What I will say is whatever happened in the regular season, I don't care. It doesn't matter. CJ's a new quarterback as far as I'm concerned compared to the regular season. I think CJ is going to be locked in. I think Bobby's going to be locked in. I think this team's going to be locked in. And I think that Bobby is going to show a lot of more tendency breakers because they're going to watch film. Right, and Harbaugh said they haven't watched. The DC said, I forget the DC's name.
Fangio.
Yes, Fangio. Can't believe I forgot. But he's literally said he hasn't watched film until this game. So they're going to watch film. They're going to see the tendencies. The announcers say, "Oh, you're going to run on first down." So I think the tendency breakers are going to be here in this game. It is up to CJ, the O-line, to execute. And it's up to our receivers. That includes Hutchinson and even Deontay Johnson, who I think will start, to block when necessary. These receivers have to block. That includes Dalton Schultz. That includes Stover. All these dudes have to execute. I believe they will.
There you go. All right. For me, in this game, I think I mentioned that what's going to keep the Texans in the game is obviously that defense. I agree 100% with you that the Texans defense is elite. The reason I believe it's because they've had injuries and they've brought in guys, and guess what? The defense has still kept it pretty consistent and pretty close to games. Jalen Petrie, I think losing him, in my opinion, I think was a blow. He was playing honestly a better season than he was, way better season than he was last season. That was an upgrade. I think when they moved him to the star role right by the line of scrimmage, I think that was his strong suit. I mean, it's the same thing he was doing what he was doing in Baylor. But once he got injured, I think there was some there obviously you felt it on the defense. They put Jimmy Ward. Jimmy Ward goes out, also got injured on that Kansas City Chiefs, unfortunately. And now, you have to make the defense adjusted. Now, I want to say this: the word adjusted. We heard it in different press conferences, right? Like, if it felt the defense would make a lot of adjustments as opposed to the offense, from what Slovic would mention a lot or whatever. But every time they've done something, like, it seems efficient. And that's why I think the defense will keep it closer. I mean, Derek Stingley is having a great year. It was a question like, how good is Derek Stingley going to be this year? Derek Stingley's been phenomenal. Then you drafted Kamari Lassiter, who has balled out. And then aside from that, Rios and I were talking about it. Kalen Bullock is coming in. And last season, at the beginning of the season when he got drafted, we in one of our shows we talked about how we were excited about getting Kalen Bullock because he comes from that last season's disastrous USC defense, which he was like the shining light in that defense, and it's clearly transferred over to the NFL. Kalen Bullock has shown off. It sucks that he didn't get the interception last. They didn't call it as an interception last against the Titans, but man, what a play! So I'm looking forward to seeing what this guy does the following season. But you basically have an almost no fly zone back there, and the defense is loaded with playmakers. What is your take on the defense this year? Be on, for example, what makes the defense as stellar as it is?
Well, I think partly what makes the defense great is you've got an incredible pass rush. The combination of Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson is amazing. Fourth best pass rush unit in terms of sacks. Danielle Hunter leads the league in pressures. A phenomenal sign. Listen, I love Jonathan Gennard, but I do believe Danielle Hunter was an upgrade. And Jonathan Gennard's doing a great job, in Minnesota, by the way. But I do think that Danielle Hunter was an upgrade. And I think that when Foley has been out there, he's been phenomenal as a defensive tackle. Without him, we have trouble stopping the run. Thankfully, he's actually going to play in the playoff game. Danico Autry should be playing as well. So that's good. And then obviously Azeez. Having Azeez out there, all of this helps the secondary. Now we're going to have Azeez and Christian Harris for the first time. Holy crap, guys. First time. So I mean, so all of that has helped the secondary. Now, obviously, Derek Stingley is a baller. Him being able to actually be able to stay healthy for a season has definitely showed everyone what he's made out of. And then Kalen Bullock and Kamari Lassiter are ballers. Incredible picks. This is why, even though I do have some issues with Nick Caserio in terms of picks and decision making, look what he got us, in this draft. So, if you're asking why the defense is so good, first it starts up front. Right, it's a pass rush. It's the D line, then the linebackers. Look at Henry To'oTo'o leading the league, leading the team in tackles. Look at the difference between how 39 was last year compared to this year. Holy crap! Look at that development.
He stepped up when Christian Harris was out. Yes, he does lead, I think, the league in missed tackles also, but he's effective. When he's effective, he's effective.
Yeah. I meant to say that he leads the franchise in tackles right now, for this season. But that's just showing like the difference that he had last year to this year. Now, is he the best in coverage? No. And but I think that now that you have Christian Harris and Azeez, I think they're going to play more base. Obviously, you don't have Petrie, so you can't play as much nickel, in my opinion.
Right.
So if you stay in base and you're playing a 4-3, I think that's going to help also stop the run. If they take away the run, do you know how much easier it's going to be to stop Herbert? Because a lot of his deep balls and all that stuff, that's all play action. So if you take away the run, you limit their play action. And now all you have him being able to do is the dink and dunks. And you'll take the underneath stuff. And as long as you're consistent, you say, we'll continue to take that. We won't just go into cover one. We'll maybe switch it up to cover three or a match, whatever it is you need to do. But you can control how much he can literally push the ball downfield if you can stop the run. I think we do it, guys.
Okay, Rios, what's your take on this, bro?
So this comment's pretty interesting. So the guy here says Chargers have a fullback that's as big as our biggest defensive tackle, and they run entire drives out of I form. Hopefully our base defense is ready. And no, I wholeheartedly agree. Like I mentioned on our other show, like with Harbaugh, he brings that old school football mentality. Run the ball, hard-nosed defense. And we're going to see that all game. You're not going to see 30 pass attempts for Justin Herbert unless they are, playing from behind. They're going to run. And then once, the defense is gassed, they're going to start hitting you with the play action. And this defense is going to have to be ready because they're going to run the ball to death because they don't have a elite running back, but they have a whole stable of running backs, and a fullback's like a battering ram. It's going to be a long day for that run defense.
Yeah, I agree. On this, so we're about to start heading out, but guys, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at JustFans22 and our Instagram account at JustFansPod. Follow us up. We also, if you've never checked out our channel, if you're here from Texans22 Podcast from me, which I appreciate you coming along, brother. It's always a great time when you're here. Check us out again. We've had some great interviews with former players, some college players. Jalen Coker was one of them, and now he's pretty much killing it over there in Carolina. Then we had Kareem Jackson, former Texan. Quentin Dems, personal friend of the show, also has been on. Check out those shows, man. It's been pretty fun having them around as well. And we're gonna continue our series of talking to players who have entered the draft or potential to become NFL stars or players in the future as well. But before we go, I wanted to get the last part of this is y'all's score prediction for this weekend's Chargers Texans game, and who wins it, who takes the cake here. I'm gonna go with Rios.
So I'm gonna call it the way I called the Browns game last year. I think they make a statement. I think they not blow them out, but I think they win by at least 2 scores. I'm gonna go 38-24 Texans.
Okay. I'm gonna go the opposite route. I believe in the defense. I just I don't know how the offense will perform, and I think if the Texans do lose, I believe it's because of the offense. And yes, I do acknowledge the fact that it's a brand new season, but at the end of the day, I don't know how Johnson's going to perform. There's really not much, there because there. So I hope that he becomes an asset. I hope that he's able to help out CJ in that. But I'm gonna say Chargers 20, Texans 17, a 3-point game.
Okay. All right. Before I give my score prediction, because I already told you who I think is going to win.
Right. Yeah.
I will just quickly comment on Babs's comment where he's talking about the Chargers fullback.
Yeah.
We can use Stover as a fullback. We've done it before. I know some people are throwing out maybe that they'll actually convert Derek Barnett for a couple snaps as fullback. I mean, this is a playoffs. They could actually do that, right? Mm-hmm. We've seen how athletic he is. Right, I mean, we just saw this past game. So I mean, listen, I'm not going to put it against D'Amico and Bobby to come up with some crazy stuff to move the ball, right? Especially on the ground. They want to move the ball on the ground. They are probably going to do some stuff that we're not thinking of right now. So we will probably use a fullback. I don't know how often we will, but we'll probably use a fullback. As far as the score prediction, yes, I do think the Texans are going to win it. I think it's going to be 24-20. I don't think it's going to be as big of a difference as Rios, but I do think we take the game. Why? Because like I said, the biggest difference here is that the Chargers don't turn the ball over, and we do. Yeah. If we control that, and we don't allow them to run the ball all over us, then we got it. They added Zeke, but Zeke is a non-factor. He's probably going to have less than 5 snaps. He's having 3.1 yard per carry when he gets a chance. He didn't even have that many chances. He's probably not going to get many this time. Dobbins, he's strong, but I think he's averaging like 4.6 yards per carry, but he's still not as explosive as Mixon. We've got the more explosive running backs. They have the better line. We have the more more explosive running backs. So if our line and which shown at the Titans game can actually block. Look at that 92-yard run. That was a block between 3 dudes, including Tunsil and Howard. Right, 2 of the dudes that people think that can't run block actually blocked for Dameon Pierce to get that 92-yard run. He didn't do it by himself. And so if we can have that type of running, we can win this game, guys. I know the entire world thinks we can't win this game, but I'm saying we're winning this game. 24-20, Texans take it.
There you go. And that's and we want to thank again V for coming on. Please check him out on his Twitter account at BrownChubbyBear, right? Just like that on your X account.
Yep.
And what else do you have under that name, just so that I know?
Yeah, so I mean, I have a lot of my personal accounts on that name, but if you want to check out Texans22, the YouTube channel, that's the most important thing to me. If you can, yes, that's it. It's Texans22 Podcast, or you can just search for Texans22. A lot of people watch our live streams on Twitter and so forth, but if you don't subscribe to a YouTube channel, you're missing all the long form content, all 22 review stuff that I'm talking about. That's on our YouTube channel. That's not live stream, and so you're missing all that content. So when people want to, say like, how come this happened? How come that happened? We answer those questions. We investigate that. We have dudes like Leo, who's literally watching film for the past 6 hours today, like literally just diving into the film for the Chargers and the Texans. And if you want to get that content, subscribe to the Texans22 channel on YouTube.
Oh yeah,
there you go, guys.
You learn a lot. Like you will watch it and you will walk away learning a whole bunch of stuff you didn't know beforehand.
And V, you guys also have some merch, is that correct?
Yeah, if you go to Texans22.com, you can get some merch like this hat, this sweatshirt. We got a lot of stuff. We got water bottles. This one is actually made by Champion now. Just go ahead. If you want to get some Texas merch, just go to Texans22.com. Check out some merch. We got stuff for your iPhone, stuff for your dog. Just go check it out.
There you go. That's what's up. Hey man, you guys are killing it in the podcast game over here, man. So I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you coming on the show and hanging out with us for a little bit. But yeah, man, also, check us out just at JustFans22 right there. No coincidence. We just started in 2022. There's no coincidence on the number at JustFans2022. And of course, our Instagram account at JustFansPod. That's going to be it for us this week, guys. Again, want to thank VT for joining us, man. Always a pleasure to have you on, brother. For the past couple of years, you've been on our show, and it's always a great time having you on, brother. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate you.
One final word. Fuck the Titans.
Fuck the Jacks.
Them especially.
Wow. There you go. All right, guys. That's going to be it. See y'all next time. Peace.
Southwest A-League, Texas, throw down here and it's so infectious. We ride for the Houston Astros, Rockets, Dynamo, and them Texans. If you ain't never been down here, but rule number one, you gon' respect us. Just fans in my speakers, new one drop, they bout to bless us. I might right through the SWAT, playing just fans right through your spot. Look, and I don't know what you thought, but right here, dog, we gon' rep the squad. Got